You ever notice how sometimes your life feels like it's slowing down from the inside out? Not because anything major happened, but because something in you just shifted. It's almost like you quietly stepped into a new phase without telling anyone. Carl Jung would say that's what happens when you stop wrestling with yourself and start actually noticing who you are beneath all the noise. So, today, we're breaking down 10 signs you're entering a season of inner peace. Some of these will surprise you, some might already be happening, and one of them might explain something you've been feeling but couldn't name. Let's get into it. Before we jump into the signs, let's set the stage with something Carl Jung understood better than almost anyone. Inner peace isn't something you chase. It's something you uncover. Jung believed that most people walk around with a version of themselves that's edited, filtered, streamlined for convenience. Not fake, just incomplete. You show the world the parts you're comfortable with, and you hide the rest because they're messy, confusing, or inconvenient. But here's the punchline. Those inconvenient parts don't disappear. They wait. And eventually, life slows down just enough for you to start hearing them. That's when something shifts. Jung called this kind of shift a moment of integration. It's when your outer behavior stops contradicting your inner reality. It's when you stop treating your thoughts like threats. It's when you stop fighting parts of yourself you never took the time to understand. And here's the key. Inner peace doesn't show up with a dramatic reveal. It doesn't announce itself. It creeps in quietly, almost subtly, as you stop reacting to old pressures and start responding to your own clarity. That's why so many people don't even realize they're entering a phase of inner peace until they look back and go, wait, when did I stop feeling overwhelmed? So as we go through these signs, keep something in mind. We're not talking about perfection. We're talking about congruence. Your internal and external world finally walking in the same direction. All right, let's break down the signs. The first sign is this. You stop matching everyone else's pace. It's subtle at first. You just notice you're not rushing to keep up with what everyone around you is doing. You're not scrambling to react to every request, every trend, every expectation. It's like your internal speedometer resets, and for the first time in a long time, you're moving at a pace that actually fits you. You're not dragging behind, feeling like you're late to your own life. You're not speeding ahead, trying to outrun pressure. You're just steady, centered, grounded. This is one of the clearest early markers of inner peace because Carl Jung believed that when you become aligned internally, your external behavior starts to slow down naturally. You stop being driven by comparison. You stop measuring your progress by someone else's timeline. You stop reacting to every tiny shift around you. Instead, you start choosing. Choosing when to act. Choosing what matters. Choosing what deserves your attention and what doesn't. And the wild part, it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like discipline. It feels like your system finally catching up with itself. It's not laziness. It's not withdrawal. It's rhythm. Your rhythm. And once you land in your own rhythm, one thing becomes obvious. The noise inside your mind starts to change. The second sign is this. Your mind stops acting like a nonstop debate room. You know that familiar internal tug of war where every decision, big or small, turns into a full argument with yourself? Suddenly, that noise starts dialing down. You're not battling 20 competing opinions in your head. You're not replaying every possible outcome as if your mind is trying to predict the future. Instead, your thinking becomes clearer, cleaner, more stable. You make decisions without feeling like you need to run them through a committee of doubts. You notice you're not rehearsing conversations in your head before they happen. You're not reviewing everything you've ever said after it happens. The overanalysis starts to collapse under its own weight. Carl Jung talked a lot about what happens when your inner world becomes more integrated. When your inner parts stop contradicting each other, your thoughts stop competing for dominance. And that's exactly what you experience here. Fewer internal arguments because there's less internal conflict. You're not trying to calm your mind, it's simply calmer. You're not forcing yourself to stop overthinking. You just don't feel the need to. This is a major sign that your internal landscape is reorganizing itself. Your thoughts become purposeful instead of reactive, direct instead of chaotic. And for the first time in a long time, you actually trust your own judgment without needing endless reassurance. When your mind stops debating everything, you feel a type of clarity that doesn't shout, it settles. The third sign is this. You stop treating every single thought like it's a breaking news alert. Before this shift, every idea that popped into your mind felt important, urgent, loaded with meaning. A random worry could derail your whole mood. A passing doubt could make you rethink everything. Your thoughts used to feel like commands, but now they feel like they are just thoughts. You start noticing the space between what you think and what you actually believe. A thought shows up, and instead of reacting to it instantly, you observe it. You recognize that not every idea deserves your attention, your energy, or your emotional response. This is a major psychological turning point Jung often pointed toward. The moment you realize you are not identical to your thoughts, you're the one noticing them, evaluating them, choosing whether they matter. You stop chasing every mental storyline. You stop assuming every worry is a warning. You stop treating every internal comment like it's a verdict. And it's not that your mind becomes empty or silent. It's that the thoughts lose their authority. They don't push you around anymore. They don't get automatic control over your mood or your choices. You find yourself saying things like, "That's just a thought. That doesn't mean anything. That's not worth reacting to." And just like that, your internal world becomes less dramatic, less frantic, more steady. This is inner peace working from the inside out, quietly but unmistakably. The fourth sign is this. You start valuing quiet in a way you never used to. Not silence, quiet. The kind of mental space where your thoughts aren't constantly overlapping, where you can actually hear your own reasoning without interference. There was a time when you might have filled every spare moment with noise, background sound, constant activity, nonstop input, anything to avoid slowing down. But now, something shifts. You catch yourself choosing environments, routines, and moments that give you clarity instead of distraction. You stop feeling the need to flood your mind with stimulation just so you don't have to sit with yourself. Instead, you welcome the chance to think clearly. You appreciate the simplicity of being focused, steady, and internally calm. Carl Jung often emphasized the value of turning inward, not as an escape from the world, but as a way to become more aware of your own mind. When you begin valuing quiet, it's usually because you finally feel safe in your own internal space. The noise outside no longer feels necessary, because the noise inside is settling. You find satisfaction in moments where nothing is grabbing for your attention. You feel more grounded when you have mental breathing room. You notice that clarity shows up when chaos isn't constantly being invited in. This shift isn't about isolating yourself. It's about recognizing that your best thinking happens when your mind has room to breathe. And once you experience that kind of internal ease, you naturally start choosing it more often. The fifth sign is this. You become more selective, and you stop feeling guilty about it. You start noticing that your time, your attention, and your energy actually matter. Not in a dramatic way, just in a practical, grounded way. You no longer hand out your effort automatically. You don't say yes just because it's expected. You don't agree to everything simply to avoid discomfort. Your decisions become intentional instead of impulsive. You say no without rehearsing an explanation. You say yes only when something truly aligns with you. You stop scattering yourself across obligations that drain you more than they give back. And what's interesting is that this shift isn't rooted in resistance. It's rooted in clarity. You're not avoiding people. You're not shutting down opportunities. You're simply choosing based on what supports your internal balance. Carl Jung talked about individuation, a process where you start acting from your true self instead of from habit or pressure. This is exactly what happens here. You're not performing, you're not overcompensating, you're not trying to prove anything. You're conserving your energy for what actually matters to you, not what temporarily distracts you or satisfies someone else's expectations. And the best part? The guilt fades. You stop apologizing for honoring your limits. You stop justifying the choices that protect your peace. You aren't harder or colder, you're clearer. Your boundaries aren't barriers, they're signals of alignment. This kind of selectivity is one of the strongest signs that your inner world is stabilizing and strengthening. You're finally acting from intention instead of pressure. The sixth sign is this. Your self-talk evolves into something noticeably steadier and more rational. You're no longer narrating your life with extremes. You're not overhyping yourself one moment and tearing yourself apart the next. The internal voice that used to swing between pressure and criticism starts sounding more balanced, more grounded, more supportive. You talk to yourself like someone you can rely on. Instead of saying, "I always mess this up," you shift to, "I can handle this." Instead of thinking, "Everything has to be perfect," you catch yourself saying, "Let's just do this step by step." It's not forced positivity, it's clarity. Carl Jung emphasized the importance of integrating the different parts of yourself, the confident parts, the hesitant parts, the analytical parts, the creative parts, so they're not constantly competing. When these internal pieces stop arguing, your self-talk becomes coherent. It stops attacking you and starts guiding you. You begin noticing when you're being unfair to yourself. You catch old patterns of self-blame and calmly redirect them. You talk through challenges instead of panicking through them. This shift isn't loud or dramatic, it's subtle, almost quiet. But it changes everything. You stop expecting yourself to operate like a machine. You stop assuming the worst about your own abilities. You stop treating mistakes like personal failures. Your self-talk becomes a stabilizer instead of a source of chaos. And soon, you realize that the relationship you have with your own thoughts has become one of your strongest sources of inner peace. The seventh sign is this. You stop needing constant stimulation just to feel okay. Before this shift, empty moments might have felt uncomfortable. You filled every pause with noise or activity. You always needed something to watch, something to scroll, something to check. Something to do, almost as if stillness was a problem you had to fix. But now, the intensity fades. You find yourself able to sit in a moment without reaching for the next distraction. You can focus without your mind searching for an escape hatch. You don't feel that restless pull toward constant input. Your attention becomes more stable. Your ability to be present increases. Your mind isn't demanding entertainment. It's comfortable with clarity. Carl Jung often pointed out that people seek distraction when they don't want to face what's happening inside. But once your inner world becomes more aligned, distractions lose their power. You're not avoiding anything anymore. There's nothing inside you that feels too overwhelming to acknowledge. You might notice that a simple pause actually feels refreshing. A quiet moment feels grounding. A slower pace feels natural, not forced. You're not chasing intensity, you're appreciating steadiness. You're not running from your thoughts, you're letting them settle. You're not filling space out of habit, you're choosing what genuinely holds your attention. This doesn't mean you don't enjoy activity or stimulation, you just don't depend on it to keep your mind calm. Your internal state no longer requires constant external distraction. That shift alone is a major marker of growing inner peace. The eighth sign is this. You start solving problems instead of storing them. Before this shift, challenges might have piled up in your mind like invisible baggage. Every small issue could linger, loop, or grow bigger simply because it wasn't addressed. You'd spend energy worrying instead of acting, letting mental clutter drain your focus. But now things change. You handle issues as they come, direct, calm, efficient. You don't overcomplicate. You don't dramatize, you simply take the next logical step and move forward. Carl Jung would recognize this as part of integrating yourself. When your internal and external worlds align, your mental energy isn't wasted on fear, anxiety, or indecision. You become a problem solver by default, not because you're overthinking, but because you've learned to trust your own capacity to act. You notice yourself catching small issues before they balloon. You address them quickly. You don't dwell. You don't hoard worry. This isn't about becoming perfect or controlling every outcome. It's about creating flow inside your mind, recognizing what can be acted on, acting, and letting the rest go. The result? Your internal world starts feeling lighter. Your mind feels sharper. Your energy feels steadier. And that steadiness, this ability to meet life's challenges without unnecessary chaos, is a core hallmark of inner peace. The ninth sign is this: you become honest with yourself without flinching. Before this, self-reflection might have been uncomfortable. Looking at your habits, tendencies, or mistakes could trigger guilt, defensiveness, or avoidance. You might have rationalized things, shifted blame, or ignored parts of yourself that felt inconvenient or uncomfortable. Now, that changes. You start seeing yourself clearly. All of it. The strengths, the weaknesses, the patterns that used to frustrate you, and you don't panic. You don't collapse under self-criticism. You simply observe, acknowledge, and adjust. Carl Jung emphasized that inner peace comes from integration, the process of becoming fully aware of who you are and owning it. When you stop hiding parts of yourself, when you face the truth without fear or judgment, something remarkable happens. You gain freedom. You stop pretending. You stop excusing. You stop fighting your own tendencies. Honesty with yourself no longer feels like punishment. It feels like clarity. You see your limitations without shame. You see your strengths without arrogance. You accept yourself as someone in progress, capable of growth, without needing to perform for approval or reassurance. This level of honesty isn't dramatic. It isn't a revelation. It's subtle, quiet, steady, but it's one of the clearest signals that your inner world has begun to stabilize and mature. When you can finally meet yourself without flinching, you feel a grounding that makes every other shift, clarity, calm, focus, stick even more firmly. The 10th sign is this: you feel like you're returning to yourself. It's subtle, almost imperceptible at first, but unmistakable once you notice it. You stop feeling pulled in 100 directions. You stop reacting to everything outside yourself. You stop carrying the weight of old habits, pressures, and expectations that never truly belong to you. Instead, you feel grounded, centered, aligned. Carl Jung described this as the culmination of the integration process. When the scattered, conflicting parts of yourself start walking together instead of against each other. You're no longer fragmented. You're not being yanked by every impulse, worry, or distraction. You're responding from a place of clarity and self-awareness. This isn't dramatic. There's no lightning bolt or fanfare. It's steady, quiet, deep. You notice it in simple ways. Your decisions feel aligned. Your thoughts feel calmer. Your energy feels centered. You're not trying to force this feeling. You're simply living from a place that already exists inside you, one that had been waiting for attention, understanding, and integration. And that's the essence of inner peace. Not a goal, not a destination, not a momentary high. It's a steady, enduring presence that comes when you stop resisting who you really are and finally start listening. At this point, you're not just functioning in life, you're fully present in it. You're not chasing clarity, you're inhabiting it. This is the ultimate marker that a season of inner peace has begun. It's quiet. It's real. And once you feel it, you know it's not going anywhere. Okay, so you've started noticing these signs of inner peace. But here's the catch. The world around you isn't slowing down. Life keeps pulling you in every direction. So, how do you hold on to this calm without letting everything around you undo it? Here are 6 ways to keep you grounded. 1. Protect your mental space. This is non-negotiable. If you're letting every thought, every notification, every demand crowd your mind, that peace slips away. Create boundaries. Small ones count. Even 5 minutes of intentional stillness, reflection, or focus can anchor you. Jung would say it's like giving yourself the space to integrate your thoughts before the world interferes. 2. Choose awareness over reaction. Chaos only rattles you if you react automatically. When something pulls at you, pause. Notice the impulse before you act. Ask, does this align with my clarity or am I responding to pressure? Even a tiny habit of noticing instead of reacting rewires your mind for stability. 3. Stay aligned with your values. Inner peace is about congruence. When what you do matches who you are. Chaos tests this constantly. Check in. Are your actions reflecting your priorities, your rhythm, your center? If not, course correct. Consistent alignment is like gravity for your calm. It keeps you grounded no matter what's happening outside. 4. Keep your inner dialogue in check. Your mind will try to sabotage this peace with old fears, doubts, or shoulds. Catch yourself, name it, remind yourself. That's just a thought, not a command. Jung emphasized observing your mind without obeying it. When you master this, chaos loses its power over your mood and focus. 5. Accept that imperfection is normal. Life will never be perfectly calm. Inner peace doesn't mean life stops hitting you with surprises. It means you've developed the internal tools to stay grounded anyway. Recognize turbulence as part of the ride, not the end of your peace. 6. Reconnect with yourself daily. Spend time each day checking in with yourself, even briefly. Review your thoughts, emotions, and actions. Adjust. Reinforce. Remind yourself who you are in the center, away from noise and pressure. This daily realignment keeps the sense of calm alive. At the end of the day, keeping inner peace isn't about controlling the world. It's about controlling your response to it.